Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's podcast, A World Without Tree. In our episodes, you can find fascinating topics to help you improve your English and expand your knowledge of the world. I'm your host, Mark, and today we're going to explore a thought-provoking topic that might sound a bit unsettling at first. What would our world be like without trees? To help us navigate this discussion, I'm joined by a special guest, Alex, an environmental expert with a deep understanding of the critical role trees play in our lives. He's going to help us find out how the world be like if there are no trees, what challenges will we be facing, and so on. Let's welcome Alex to the show.
Thanks for inviting me, Mark. It's a pleasure to be here. You know, Mark, I was so excited when you called me to come here. I am going to elaborate on this topic in depth so that people understand the topic fully, and besides, they will improve their English listening to this podcast. Okay, this is definitely a topic that can spark some serious reflection. Trees are so integral to everything around us, and imagining a world without them is a great way to understand just how essential they really are.
Absolutely. So let's start from scratch. Imagine all of the trees in the world just instantly disappeared. Just like that. What would happen to our planet? What would we notice first?
Great place to start. Well, the first thing that would hit us is the dramatic drop in oxygen levels. Trees are responsible for producing about 28% of the Earth's oxygen. When they absorb carbon dioxide during photosynthesis, they release oxygen into the air. So, without trees, we'd see a noticeable decline in air quality, and that would make breathing much harder. Areas with high populations like cities would feel the impact almost immediately.
Wow, that really is pretty serious. I'm sure it's more than the oxygen thing, but trees somehow relate to almost all aspects of life, right?
Oh, absolutely. Trees are critical to almost every aspect of life on Earth. Let's talk about biodiversity for just a moment. Thousands of species, animals, insects, and plants depend on trees. Many birds nest in trees, squirrels live in their branches, and insects like bees and butterflies rely on trees for food and shelter. Without trees, many species would lose their habitats and be at risk of extinction. To be honest, one of the big reasons why we lost some of the species in the last century was cutting trees excessively and using them for our own good. I mean, cutting trees has some rules, but we ignored them. Back to your question. In fact, entire ecosystems could collapse. Think about it. Forests are complex networks, and trees are at the heart of that. If they all vanished, then it would send the balance that sustains life all astray.
Well, if we did not have trees, it would be a much quieter Earth, but not good in the least. What about us humans? It's pretty clear it wouldn't just affect animals and air quality. We would feel it too, don't you? I mean, maybe we could use technologies that can help us to recover, or some kind of artificial trees to live in bad situation. How's that?
Great question, Mark. Trees are essential to our daily lives in ways that we often take for granted. First, let's talk about food. Many of the foods we eat, like fruits, nuts, and even spices, come from trees. Without them, we would need to find new ways to provide these essential nutrients. Additionally, trees help prevent soil erosion. The roots of trees anchor the soil, and without them, we'd see a lot more landslides and flooding. This would impact our agriculture, our ability to grow crops, and even our ability to live in certain areas. So even if make artificial trees or use our technologies, they should be able to do such things, which seems very hard here. And think about the way we build. Wood is a fundamental material in construction. Homes, furniture, paper products, all of these things rely on trees. Without them, we would need to look for alternatives, many of which may be costlier or less sustainable in the long run. So daily life would definitely change in very practical ways.
You are true if we considered how deeply we depend on trees for basic things like food, construction materials, and even preventing disasters like floods. We would have taken care of them. Now let's talk about the climate. Trees play a huge role in maintaining Earth's temperature. What would happen to the climate if trees were gone?
That's a big one. Trees act as a natural air conditioner for the planet. They absorb carbon dioxide, which is a major contributor to global warming. Without trees, carbon levels in the atmosphere would skyrocket, leading to faster climate change. We'd experience much hotter temperatures, more extreme weather events, and rising sea levels. the planet would essentially start to warm at a rate we're not prepared for. And this wouldn't just mean hotter summers, it would affect rainfall patterns, leading to droughts in some places and flooding in others. In short, our climate would become more unpredictable and less livable. If I give you a short example here, I guess Amazon would be a clear guess. Studies have shown that roughly 17 to 20% of the Amazon's original forests have been cleared since the 1970s, and the rate of deforestation has increased in recent years, which is a true disaster.
It does sound terrifying. So in case the climate shifts like this, it impacts more than the weather, of course, but it would transform the way of living, work, and how we think in terms of tomorrow.
Right? The eradication of the trees would really have a flow-on effect on our daily lifestyles. Urban areas would experience a more significant urban heat island effect, in which cities would become much hotter than the rural surroundings due to human activity and the lack of greenery. Cities would become almost unbearable during summer months if trees were absent, cooling the air. Public health would also take a hit. More air pollution, less green space for exercise or relaxation, and a lack of shade would all contribute to poor physical and mental health. Trees also control the water cycle. They absorb rainwater and return it to the atmosphere in a process called transpiration. Without them, we would experience extreme flooding when it rains and more severe droughts when there is no rain. Water shortages could become a real problem in many areas. It would be a huge challenge to secure fresh water, which is essential for drinking, agriculture, and industrial processes. And this goes on and on. We build factories that produce dust and garbage, which is a huge pollution. After all, I can say that the biggest threat to trees and forests is humans, and it's us who will get damage. But we can be the people who get benefit too if we use it the right way.
It's really eye-opening to hear how interconnected everything is. Trees are literally the backbone of life as we know it. But I'm curious, if we're imagining a world without trees, is there any way humans could adapt to this? Could we find alternatives to some of these losses?
Surviving without trees would be incredibly difficult. We would likely find ourselves resorting to technology and seeking ways and means of doing many things similar to the several functions trees currently provide. As such, here are a couple of examples. Let's think about oxygen or purifying of air or simply climate regulation through an air purification process that removes all carbon from it, or just building with non-tree-based products. However, being realistic, none of these technologies would match the efficiency and natural balance provided by trees. It's just at the end of the day, protecting the trees instead of looking for ways to replace them. I think we have to reconsider the way we coexist with nature. Now that we know all these issues in deforestation, and if we keep going without action, then perhaps we're being pushed into a future that's not even impossible anymore.
It's a sobering thought, but I'm glad we're having this conversation. So, what can we do as individuals to help protect trees and ensure they are around for future generations?
The most powerful thing we can do is support conservation efforts and be mindful of our own actions. This means planting trees, supporting policies that protect forests, and making choices that reduce our overall carbon footprint. Simple things like reducing waste, recycling, and choosing sustainable products all contribute. I even say planting one tree by yourself. It might kind of ridiculous or ineffective, but yet every small effort counts, and it will help our climate in a huge range if we all try. We also need to educate others about the importance of trees. The more people understand how vital they are, the more pressure there will be on governments and companies to take action.
Great advice, Alex. It really comes down to making conscious choices and spreading awareness. I guess you said such important things that I want to implement them now. And now I believe everyone who watched this episode understood what to do now. Anyway, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today. It's been a really eye-opening conversation.
Thank you for having me, Mark. It's been great to discuss this important issue, and I hope listeners feel more motivated to take action in their own lives. Together, we can make a difference.
For sure. Thank you to all our listeners for listening to this episode of the ASA English Podcast. We really appreciate your attention and, above all, your efforts in taking care of our precious Earth. Keep your head and fingers ready. The future belongs to us. Make sure to send this video to your friends if you find it useful. Take care, and we'll see you in the next video. Fascinating, extremely interesting, or captivating. Example: the documentary about space exploration was fascinating. I couldn't stop watching it. Unsettling, causing discomfort or worry. Example: the news about the earthquake was unsettling and it made me anxious all day. Navigate, to plan or direct a route, or in a broader sense, to handle or manage a situation. Example: the captain had to navigate through the storm to reach the port safely. Interconnected, being linked or connected with each other. Example: the world's ecosystems are interconnected, so damage to one area can affect others. Sobering, causing serious thought or concern, making you realize how serious or important something is. Example: the sobering reality of climate change has led many people to take action. Biodiversity, the variety of life in a particular habitat or on Earth as a whole. Example: the biodiversity of the coral reef is remarkable, with thousands of species living there. Transpiration, the process by which plants release water vapor into the air through their leaves. Example: trees help regulate the water cycle through transpiration, releasing moisture into the atmosphere. Eradication, the complete destruction or removal of something. Example: the eradication of invasive species helped restore balance to the local ecosystem. Sustainability, the ability to maintain or continue something over time without harming future generations. Example: using renewable energy sources is a key step towards sustainability for the planet. Deforestation, the process of clearing or destroying forests, often to make way for agriculture or urban development. Example: deforestation in the Amazon has led to the loss of many species and increased carbon emissions. Vanish, to disappear suddenly and completely. Example: the magician made the rabbit vanish right before our eyes.